Hello, people of the earth watching car reviews on the internet. Welcome to the 2024 Volvo S90 T8 Recharge. Today we're gonna get this rig up in the air, nerd out the tech specs, see how it is constructed, and then go give it the Swedish Kung Pao chicken. Somebody got that reference. Wow, it's a big car. All right, first things first, there's a whole, well, that must be like an air tank right there. Downwards facing invisible tips. Out back, the S90 utilizes a multi-link with transverse leaf and integral link rear suspension with aluminium knuckles, and the lower link, which is also aluminium, acts as a sort of spring bucket for the air bladder bag boot. Very similar design to the Alfa Romeo Giulia and Stelvio's Alpha Link. It's paired with a set of active dampers, House Blend, made by Volvo in España. Rear anti-sway bar, which is hard mounted directly to the steel rear subframe, measures in approximately 23 millimeter in diameter. Housed in the center of that rear suspension is the E-Rad, manufactured by Schaefer. It is a 107 kilowatt, 309 newton meter of torque, permanent magnet synchronous electric motor with a two-stage single-speed reduction gear. It is capable of active yaw, where it'll overdrive the rear wheels in contrast to the front because it is not physically connected to the front of the vehicle. There's no drive shaft. It is a pure electric motor providing you all-wheel drive grip. While it does do active yaw, it does not have active torque vectoring. This being the S90 Ultimate PHEV all-wheel drive is the largest and most loaded version of a Volvo sedan you can currently buy, weighing in at 4,628 pounds. Look at that. That's some thick plastic, not some cheap hairy cardboard stuff. Good. Whoa, the exhaust mid-pipe is smushed because the battery pack is up above. There's not very much room in the tunnel. I can't really, oh, there's a round spot. Presumably this round portion is volumetrically the same as the smush portion. Mid-pipe measures in at approximately 65 millimeter in diameter, a little more than 2.5 inch SAE. All of this hardware you see on either side of the exhaust is metal braces that support the battery up above, and subsequently I imagine that would act as great chassis bracing to keep this thing stiff. As far as the transmission goes on the internal combustion engine side of things, it is the Aijin Warner, yes, a Japanese transmission in a Swedish car made in China, TG81SD. 8-speed automatic. The maximum torque input rating of 450 newton meters, which is 331 pound-feet, and has a final drive ratio of 3.2. Massive steel subframe, and wow, that's tight up there. Up front, the S90 utilizes a double wishbone front suspension configuration made in Norway. I've yet to see that on a new car. The lower portion of the knuckle is removable to access the ball joint. I like that. Again, paired with those in-house Volvo adaptive dampers, removable from the lower fork portion. Well, that makes it a lot cheaper to replace. Front anti-sway bar, which is buried in the abyss, measures in at 26 millimeter in diameter. That's not even hairy. That's just like fiberboard, like fiberglass cardboard. But all right. Time for the braking test. Nothing behind me. Ready, set, go. Okay, the seatbelt groped me. Way more aggressive braking than I was anticipating. Short stopping distance. Aggressive ABS feedback, the seatbelt copped a feel. I didn't expect that. That was good. That was solid braking. That braking was just made possible in conjunction with the regeneration going on out back. A front single piston caliper with a 345 millimeter or 13.6 inch front rotor. These wheels, they are a 19 by 8.5 with a positive 47 millimeter offset alloy wrapped in a 255/40 19 inch Continental Conti Pro Contact Texas tire. I made up the Texas part. To be fair, it does say TX, which is the abbreviation for the great state of Texas. plastic inner fender liners, and you can see up in there the inner strut tower portion is cast aluminum. Well, that's strange. It's a vent, but not what you think it would be for. And behind this little slit is the air-to-air front mount intercooler. Whoa, that's crazy. It's got a little fan. It's got a pusher fan in the front and a side mount heat exchanger. Harry cardboard out back again. Out back, you get another single piston caliper with a 320 millimeter or 12.6 inch rotor, and the wheel and tire, same as you get up front. In the name of science, I am now going to give it the beans, but first I must conduct assessment of bolstering. Good. It's slippery because the top I'm wearing, but I cheated. The bolstering is adjustable. There are quite a few options for interior colors. This one has the I don't have children or pets package. It's got a little Swedish flag and a bit of an Easter egg since 1959. The seats are ventilated, heat-olated, and the steering wheel is also heated. However, down here on the side of the seat, there is a little dial that you can rotate where it brings up a hidden menu where you can control your bolstering, your lumbar, your butt cushion adjustment, as well as a massage function, which gives you 5 different programs in variable settings for the strength. And both passenger and driver have 2 memory settings. It's kind of weird that they hid the controls down here, but I guess it makes sense since they're on the seat. As far as drive modes go, you gotta select the gear and then go to driving and then select driving and dynamics. And you can choose between hybrid, power, pure, which is pure EV, and constant all-wheel drive for adverse conditions. You can also configure how you want your battery utilized if you want to hold it for later or charge it on the go. Driving dynamics. There's a creep mode in case you're a huge fan of Radiohead. Just make it so it plays it all the time. My jokes are so terrible. Steering feel firm. I feel like this menu is translated into English because that's weird. The shift lever is made out of crystal and it has a Swedish racing chicken, I think, on there. I don't know what that is. And likely because this has a Toyota transmission in it, technically, it has the B+ mode for going down steep grades of hill. The gauge cluster is full digital. You have your navigation in the center, and it's kind of confusing to figure out the menu on it. I feel like that should be a menu button, but it just turns on and off the navigation. The controls on the steering wheel make me question my own intelligence. I don't know if they're that simple or if I'm that simple. From what I'm reading in this electronic owner's manual, there is no way to manually defeat your stability control. So there's that. It does talk about the active yaw though, but let's see what this thing can do. Ready? Go. Wow, it spun the tire. Whoa! I was not expecting that. It spun the tires up front. That's already really good. That was a respectable launch for something I didn't even know had a form of a launch control, if you even want to call it that. But it gets out of the hole. It spun the front tires, but it's still hooked up good. And I feel like it's short shifted into second just instantly, unless that's just, man. Jeez, it's way in there. Hood pop. That's a fairly light hood with hood struts. Wow, that goes way vertical. That is amazing. More manufacturers need to make hoods like this. Look at it, you have so much room to work on this thing. It's just the fuck out of your way. It's like a game of hungry Volvos. Underneath the hood of the 2024 Volvo S90 T8 is the B420 4T57, which is an all aluminum dual overhead cam 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that on its own produces 312 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 295 pound-feet of torque from 3,000 to 5,400 RPM. Now, if you factor in the power from that rear electric motor, which on its own produces 143 horsepower at 15,900 RPM and 228 pound-feet of torque from 0 to 3,280 RPM, you get a total system output of 455 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 523 pound-feet of torque at 2,200 RPM. Let's take a look at this engine. Transverse mounted, as I mentioned before. Intake manifold is up front. It's plastic, which means the turbo is in the back side, but it's not super hard to get to. A plastic charge pipe above it. Digging in a little bit deeper on the T8 power plant, it is a 1969cc engine with a 82 by 93.2 millimeter bore and stroke, a 10.3:1 compression ratio. It is no longer supercharged and turbocharged. Volvo went away from this within the past model year or two. It is now just turbocharged only because the rear electric motor and the e-boost function makes up for that low-end torque that the supercharger, which was belt-driven, used to. Now this is direct inject only. It is a timing belt, not a timing chain. It does have variable valve timing on both intake and exhaust cams. It's a little bit of room between the crank pulley and the frame rail. You notice there is no serpentine belt, no accessory belts at all, which means it has an electric AC compressor as well as water pump. The motor inverter mounted right here above the transmission in the engine bay. Foam? That's foam. What is in here? Oh, it's the expansion chamber is hidden up here. Oh geez, the brake master cylinder is hidden in an abyss. Yes, and there's a secondary coolant expansion chamber, so there's two cooling systems. I miss Volvo's 5 pots. Beans, engage. Yep, this thing rips. The engine doesn't sound that bad either. Like, it's gotta be synthetic noises added in, but it's not a bad sound. It feels like a big body car. There's a noticeable amount of heft to it. You can feel the weight of the car. It's not big floaty boaty like an old Crown Vic. It's tight. It's tight and floaty. It's still enjoyable to, I wouldn't say toss around a corner, hoofed around a corner. I don't, my own vocabulary. If I don't know a word, I'll make one up. I have it in the power mode, obviously right now. I'm just gonna mid-roll punch. There's a little shove, then a delay, then a shove again. Smooth in between gears, and it just pulls nice and smooth. Once it gets going, there's not really a dip in the power. It's just constant and solid. That's the electric motor filling in the dips in the internal combustion engine's power band. I could imagine this powertrain in a smaller, lighter car would be kind of enjoyable. It is deceiving though that this is a transverse mounted all-wheel drive system with an electric motor out back. Didn't really get upset going over a bump mid-corner. It doesn't have much character to it, I guess is the way I could describe it. It's quick, it's robotic-like, it gets the job done, but there's not a lot of flavor to the power delivery and how it's putting it down. It just kind of makes you wonder how it's all happening. And I guess that's kind of the point of a vehicle like this. It's not a performance car, it's a big luxury car, so you want it to be fast and you don't care how it gets done. Let me drop it into the B mode. Oh, I just learned this now. You can move the little crystal to the left or the right and use it as like a shifter, not sequential. It's like sideways. So you can downshift into the B mode. Ah, okay, now punch it. It'll shift for you, it won't hold the gear. I've been driving this thing for 5 days now and I did not know you could tap the thing to the left or the right. There's nothing down here labeling left or right. You just gotta kind of use common sense when you see on the gauge cluster the plus and minus to the sides of the B. It's kind of how the controls for the massage seats. You wouldn't know that this thing had massage seats unless you started screwing around with the controls on the seats, and then all of a sudden you touch that one, boom, it brings up the massage function. They kind of hide things in here, which makes you question your intelligence. There is a little bit of a delay when it's changing from hybrid to internal combustion engine. It's not as bad as other plug-in hybrids I've driven. Considering this isn't a dedicated performance car, I'll give it a pass in that aspect. Who is chewing on the license plate on this thing? It's all bent up. As far as the storage capacity goes, look at that robo trunk. It's deep, super deep. Oh, interesting. There's a little side area, that's Velcroable. You can stick something on it. There's also a hook for who knows what. They give you this nice little neat plastic storage area for your charge cable and a Velcro strap so you can stow it properly, but I just kind of rage wrapped it and shoved it in the hole to just get it done. That could have been taken out of context. Oh, there's even an outlet back here. I don't know why they use those old school cigarette lighter ones though. A USB would be so much more handy. Little glow in the dark escape handle. It's lined in old wool pants. Well, well, well. This is fancy. I apologize in advance for the sound of the HVAC, but it's hotter than Satan's gooch out there, so I'm leaving the AC on. Legroom for years back here. The rear seats are ventilated as well as heated. Well, you can have hot air blowing up your butt. All right. Well, that's weird. I have controls on my door, but the back passenger does not. It's different. What is this? Oh, it's a little storage compartment where you can put sugar cubes to feed horses as you pass by them in the road. Oh, I got a joystick so I can control the seat in the front like a drone operator. Yeah, get out of my way, peasant. I can control the roof from back here. That's fancy. This flies out there. The side shades are power. While it's a pretty looking dash, it lacks physical buttons to control your climate control, so you have to use the touch screen. This stereo is phenomenal, and obviously because it's a Swedish car, I must listen to my sugar. It is an optional package by Bowers and Wilkins. 15 channels, 19 speakers, and you can actually see the speakers behind the little perforations in the metal trim. And you hit this little square and it brings up apps kind of like a smartphone, but what's even more amazing, it has YouTube loaded into it, which will only play the hydraulic press channel, oddly enough. I may or may not have made up the Meshuggah and hydraulic press part. If you live in an area that smells bad, they have an air quality filtration system to remove the harmful stuff from the air inside the car. I don't know what that slot does, maybe for a mini SD card, and that's just the fake button. So a little compartment over here at the side of the steering wheel. Ooh, it's soft opens and it's flock lined. There's taupe leather at the top with contrast stitching, and that I'm fairly certain is real wood. One could argue that is a picture of an old square Volvo sedan. Because there's a massive battery in the transmission tunnel, the center storage is not very deep. It does come with a cleaning cloth for the screen though, I like that. And a little pocket to stow your Swedish racing chicken boots. Plug-in hybrids make a lot of sense for people that like the idea of an electric or electrified vehicle, but don't really want to have to deal with the downsides of one. It truly is the best of both worlds in that aspect. And this thing, I swear if you charge this every night, you could make a tank of gas last long enough probably that the gas would probably start to go bad. I wonder if that's actually something people have to consider with these. Because I mean, if you're constantly charging it and making short commutes, you're never going to be using the gasoline unless you're running it in the power mode, which obviously you should be because more power is always better. You think it would be more noticeable, the disconnect from the two individual drivetrains, essentially, the electric out back and the gasoline up front, but I didn't really notice it. And also that when it goes from electric mode to gasoline mode, it's fairly smooth and seamless as much as it can be when you think about what has to happen mechanically for that to come online and drop offline. I mean, I think it would be almost impossible to make it perfectly seamless. When they first delivered this car, I had done zero research on recent Volvos. They're just something I hadn't really been paying attention to, and I thought for sure this would have been a longitudinal drivetrain similar to the Toyota Land Cruiser, how the electric motor is essentially the bell housing of the transmission. And I was shocked to find out it is an electric rear motor completely separate from the front. So that has to say something about the drivetrain that's in this, if I wasn't able to tell right away. I will say looks-wise and interior-wise, it does have a Volvo feeling to it, but powertrain-wise, that's where the hybrid drivetrain is lacking. When I think of Volvos, I think of slightly nose-heavy, 5-pot or straight 6, turbo power, sounds great. This drivetrain gets the job done, but it doesn't have passion behind it. It doesn't have something unique about it, and that aspect is missing for me. It has is now time to give this Volvo S90 some scores, starting with the bean score, the assessment of the feeling you get in your gut when you give it the beans. And it earned a rating of, followed by the cookie score, the assessment of value, and as this one is equipped in the upper 70s, it earns a rating of, taking into consideration that full-size pickup trucks and random soccer mom mobiles are costing upwards of $100,000, a big body luxury car that's a plug-in hybrid and still hauls ass is in the 70s, loaded. Fair. Next is the wrench score, the assessment of ease of maintenance, and it earned a rating of, I would not be afraid to work on this thing, but I think for a lot of people this might be Next is the squid score, the assessment of handling, and it earned a rating of, not bad for a big boat. Lastly is the penguin score, the assessment on how much I personally like a vehicle, and it earned a rating of, I'm sad that it's no longer made in its motherland of Sweden anymore, and it's not even really a Swedish car company. I think that added character and uniqueness to it because there was some history involved there, but it is what it is. At least it's not a carbon copy cookie cutter of every other car out on the road, and that adds to the score in my book. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon with another. Bye.